acting as the bully on the international stage won't win the Trump administration any friends, that's for sure. It won't win the American people any friends, but Trump seems to have a hard time accepting that.
Well, the last few days when I told them about Iceland, they loved me. They called me daddy, right, last time. A very smart man said, he's our daddy. He's running it. I was like running it. I went from running it to being a terrible human being.
Okay, he misspoke there, and people are making fun of him because he said Iceland instead of Greenland. When you're speaking off the cuff, sometimes you misspeak. I do it all the time, and it's a mistake. So I'm not going to ding him for that. However, did the NATO Secretary General call him daddy? And honestly, I did kind of remember someone calling him daddy. I couldn't remember if it was like a US-based right winger. I know a lot of them actually do treat him like daddy, but we looked into this and here's what we found. So this has to do with last summer. This is after Trump had made a statement in regard to Israel's conflict with Iran. If you can remember, he used an expletive. This is what I'm talking about. We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the F they're doing. And of course, he actually used the expletive. And in response to that, the NATO Secretary General, Mark Rutte, said, sometimes daddy needs to use strong language. Don't do that. Just don't do that. You're a grown man. Don't refer to another grown man as daddy. It's not good. Now, he probably regretted it immediately afterwards because he tried to clarify his statement. So Rutte later said, the daddy thing, I didn't call him daddy. But you did, okay? What I said is that sometimes in Europe, I hear sometimes countries saying, hey, Mark, will the US stay with us? And I said, that sounds a little bit like a small child asking his daddy, hey, are you still staying with the family? So in that sense, I use dad. No, okay, like no one's buying this, you called him daddy. Don't do it, Trump will remember it. There's one thing that Trump remembers and he keeps it in his back pocket. Whenever someone says something complimentary toward him, he will remember it and he will bring it back up. And when you call him daddy, he's gonna remember, and he brought it up. But his whole point is, look, they went from calling me daddy to now, wanting to retaliate because I want to take Greenland. Okay, yeah, that's what's gonna happen. They're gonna be upset about that. And perhaps Trump should be more concerned with how the American people feel about his weird obsession with taking Greenland. Now, let me be clear. If you conduct the same polling and you ask Americans, would you be supportive of Trump engaging in a mutual agreement, a mutual transaction in which both parties are totally okay with the sale of Greenland so the US can acquire it? I'm sure they will have a different response. But everything we've seen in the news, everything we've heard from Trump is all about either using military might or engaging in ridiculous tariffs in order to take Greenland by force. So keep that context in mind and take a look at how Americans feel about what's been going on.
Trump's net approval rating on the Epstein files, look at that, just absolutely awful. 38 points below water. But any try to buy Greenland is somehow even more unpopular. Look at this, it's 40 points below water. There is barely an issue out there that's worse for Donald Trump than the Epstein files, but any attempts to buy Greenland or use military force on Greenland, which even polls worse than this, is one of them. It is arguably the most unpopular thing that Donald Trump can try to do is mess with Greenland.
So Greenland is polling worse than the Epstein files.
You got it.
And look, not only do I think the polling is reflective of America's distaste for the way Trump is going about this, but I also think it has a lot to do with the fact that Americans are suffering here in America. And much of the news that Trump makes has to do with foreign policy. It doesn't really seem like he is focused on what's happening in this country. And then on top of that, whenever you think of his domestic policy, you think about chaos. You think about what we're seeing on our streets right now. You think about actual local police chiefs and deputies complaining about how they're being racially profiled by ICE. So it's negative domestic policy. So I don't know why Trump is going in all of these disastrous directions and just kind of ignoring the way the American people feel about it. But it's not just that people have bad feelings toward Trump here at home. It's international. And I think the way he's been received at the World Economic Forum And the rhetoric he's been using toward our longstanding allies isn't making the situation any better.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.